This is a major story that has just broken. This involves the congressional maps that were redrawn here in the state of Texas. It was an effort led by President Donald Trump and Republican leadership here in the state of Texas to give them the advantage when it comes to having additional seats on the House in Congress in the 2026 midterm election. A federal judge is now saying that those maps are no good, essentially saying that the new congressional maps that were redrawn by Republicans right now, a panel of three federal judges, they're ruling today after 2 weeks of reviewing this case. This is coming out of El Paso, that this is not going to hold. And of course, this has major implications for other states, namely California, who began their own efforts there as well to sort of redraw their own maps to offset what was happening here. That was something that was pushed by Democrats and Republican Governor of California, Gavin Newsom. Let's check in with our political reporter, Jack Fink. Jack is on the phone joining us now. Jack, we learned about this information really just within the last couple of minutes now. This has major implications when it comes to Republican leadership and their moves here in Texas as well as California. What's your reaction to this?
Well, we've certainly been waiting a long time for this ruling. And so, as you said, the judges have blocked the 2025 map that was approved by Republicans in the Texas legislature. And those new districts would have given 5 more seats to the Republicans if the judges had approved it. So now they're going to have to use the map that is currently in place, the 2021 map, for next year's election, the 2026 midterm election. And so the judges issued their 160-page ruling just a short time ago. I've been checking on this for weeks. I checked on it earlier this morning. The judges finally posted their ruling, and I've gone through a little bit of it, Ken. And what the judges were saying is that they found that there was substantial evidence that shows that Texas racially gerrymandered the 2025 map. And the judges cited the letter by the U.S. Justice Department last July that threatened to sue Texas over its coalition districts. These are the majority non-white congressional districts in Texas. The Justice Department said they were unconstitutional, and they wanted Texas to dismantle these districts, which include the 33rd Congressional District here in North Texas. That's Democrat Mark Vesey's congressional district, which includes Fort Worth and extends into Dallas. And the judges say that the Justice Department did not mention the majority white Democratic districts, such as the 32nd Congressional District, also in North Texas, now held by Democrat Julie Johnson. And so, of course, you touched on a little before, what happened after Governor Abbott added this to the special session agenda after the Justice Department letter. We saw all the Texas House Democrats flee the state. Many of them went to Illinois, some went to Massachusetts, others went to California to try to get get support of these other Democratic states to redistrict, do a mid-decade redistricting of their own. And we just saw in California earlier this month, the voters there approved of allowing redistricting there, giving California 5 new Democratic seats at the expense of the Republicans, and now Republicans are taking the Democrats there to court. And so when you come back here to Texas, this really matters for a variety of reasons. And one of them is just the timing of this all, because the candidates have been able to start filing their paperwork for the March primary. That opened up November 8th. So that was just days after the election. And many of the Democrats who were impacted by the new 2025 maps have not filed their campaign paperwork because they were waiting for these judges to issue a ruling. And so now that they have issued this ruling, first of all, I would suspect Texas, the state of Texas, is going to directly appeal to the U.S. Supreme Court. And then we have to wait and see what are they going to do and when are they going to do it, because the filing deadline for the candidates to file for the March primary is coming up on Monday, December 8th. And so I suspect what you're going to see is the Democrats in North Texas, Congresswoman Julie Johnson will file to stay in the 32nd Congressional District. She'll file for re-election. Same thing with Congressman Mark Vesey in the 33rd Congressional District. And, we'll see what Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett does, whether she files for re-election in the her 30th District, or there's been a lot of chatter about whether she's going to run for the U.S. Senate. So this is really how it all shakes out right now. I've still obviously got to read through it, but that is the major headline out of this. The 2025 maps cannot be used for next year's midterm elections here in Texas, and they've got to stay with the 2021 map.
Jack, as you continue to look into this, I know obviously you've got a lot of reading to do here as soon as we get off the phone with you here, but I do want to talk about the fact that, that this was the claim that the Democrats had been making all along, that these new maps were racially gerrymandered. Obviously, the three-panel judges coming out of El Paso, the federal judges who said this is the case, in fact, now validates that claim, at least before it goes up to the Supreme Court. And as you mentioned, I think many people who've been following this as closely as we have here, we know that this is going to immediately become turn into an appeal to the U.S. Supreme Court. And of course, that's going to take a life of its own. Not sure how long it'll take before the Supreme Court issues a ruling on that before those 2026 midterm elections. However, though, where we stand right now, I'm wondering, Jack, how much you yourself are wondering now the implication nationally of what's happening here in Texas. And namely, I want to talk a little bit about what was happening in California, because the governor there, Gavin Newsom, also moved quickly to send it out to the voters to see if they would be willing to redistrict their own maps, redraw their own maps to offset what was happening here. So I'm wondering what kind of ripple effect you think this might have nationally. Of course, we're going to wait to see what the Supreme Court does. But for people in California and other states who may have been considering something similar here, what kind of effect that might have on them? Or do you think they just kind of put a pause on everything to see what the Supreme Court ruling is? How do you think that might play out, Jack?
Well, this comes at a time, Ken, where the U.S. Supreme Court is already reviewing this subject, and that is what is considered racial gerrymandering and partisan gerrymandering, because the Republicans here said, look, we did not consider race in this at all. And in fact, as part of their trial that was held last month, the Republicans argued that they disagreed with the Department of Justice's letter saying that, they had a problem with these coalition districts and that they were unconstitutional. The state of Texas denied that and said they were not unconstitutional and said that race had no part in this. This was strictly for partisan purposes, which the U.S. Supreme Court has allowed. And it's only racial gerrymandering that is illegal and unconstitutional and has, we'll see what the U.S. Supreme Court does. The Voting Rights Act does not allow racial gerrymandering. And what I think is going to be very interesting to see is, does the U.S. Supreme Court change any of this? We have seen the court decide that, as far as some of the racial concerns, the state of Texas, when you go back in history, always had to have pre-clearance from the Justice Department before their congressional maps were approved. But the Supreme Court years ago took that away and said, look, the state is, and much of the South no longer needs this pre-clearance. And so the court now is really taking another look at gerrymandering as an issue. And so they are looking at a case right now out of Louisiana, I think Alabama as well. And so we'll see what they do with the Texas case. But what I also think is interesting, to your point about the California governor, he was just here in the state. He came to Houston, I want to say about 10, 11 days ago, and was celebrating their victory from California, but really thanking the Texas House Democrats for really raising this as a nationwide issue. Remember, it made national headlines for weeks at a time when the news was kind of slow. And so it did really have national headlines, national implications because of that. And then the state of Illinois' Governor, J.B. Pritzker, was just in Dallas a week ago, again, thanking the Texas House Democrats for making this an issue. Now, the state of Illinois has not gone forward to try to do a mid-decade redistricting, but he said that the Texas Democrats here really inspired Democrats all across the country to fight back. So, you know, other states, the Republicans, President Trump just lashed out at Republicans in Indiana because they have decided against a mid-decade redistricting. And mid-decade redistricting, while it's certainly not common at all, is legal. And so I think, you know, whether the Supreme Court justices, you know, now revisit this and maybe, you know, they want to take a look at mid-decade redistricting, we will see what they rule. We'll certainly see how quickly the state of Texas files its appeal. I'm waiting for a statement from the governor's office to see what they have to say about this. I can't imagine they're very happy about this. Obviously, they wanted these new maps to go through, and quite frankly, the timing of all this, you know, people were starting to wonder, you know, why was this taking so long? This 3-judge panel in El Paso held a trial for about 10 days, October 1st to October 10th, and, you know, it had taken until now, here we are on, November 18th to get a ruling. So it's 160 pages, like I said, so obviously there's a lot to it.
Yeah, Jack, we're going to let you get to those 160 pages. Obviously, there's a lot more to report here throughout the day on CBS News Texas.